If you've been around CDN, you've heard the phrase expert culture. In this video, I'm going to help you understand what we mean by expert culture and what we don't mean by it. So ready? Here we go. So expert culture is one of the phrases. We say beware of expert culture. Look out for expert culture. In fact, expert culture is one of the contributing factors to the stagnation, to the lid of church multiplication in the United States. And so what do we mean by expert culture and why does it matter? So first of all, let's talk about what expert culture is not. So expert culture is not a rejection of learning. It's not that at all. It's not a rejection of higher education. Expert culture saying, oh, we're against expert culture. We're not saying we're against a credentialing journey, a journey towards ordination. That's not what we're saying at all. In fact, quite the opposite. We believe strongly in the need for people to be trained and equipped to have deepening levels of education and understanding of the Word of God and the principles of ministry. So when we say beware of expert culture or we stand against expert culture, we're not standing against advanced learning. We're not standing against continually improving ourselves. In fact, we're not even standing against becoming an expert in what God's called you to do. That's not what we're saying. So what are we saying? Why do we say beware of expert culture? Be alert to expert culture. It's because expert culture in the United States especially has produced a major problem. It's become a roadblock to multiplication. And here's why. Most times when someone is called into ministry, when the Lord's opened doors for them, they have a sense in their heart, the prevailing model of the church will guide them in a journey first of education and credentialing, and then deploy them into the harvest field. So here's why this is important to understand this. What happens is someone says, oh, I'm called by God, and you say, great, you're called to be a vocational pastor, you're called to full-time ministry, awesome. Let's get you in the pipeline. The problem is there's a problem with our pipeline. There's a problem with the pipeline, and here it is. In the current pipeline, someone says, I'm called by God. We say excellent. Go into these stages of candidacy for ministry. Start doing these educational programs. Get this degree lined up. Work in the credentialing journey. And all of these things, like I said, they're good. But the problem is at the end of that journey, the person turns to you and says, okay, I'm ready. Now I need a job. I have the degree. I have the credentials. Where's my job? And now there's nothing wrong with being paid in ministry. There's nothing wrong with employment in the church. But you can quickly see if you have a stream of people that are called by God and then meet all the criteria for ministry and that are standing on the sidelines saying, pick me, I need a job, you can see why it becomes a bottleneck to multiplication. Because the average church needs between 50 and 100 attenders or members for each full-time person. And probably even more than that. And this is a broad stroke depending on where the church is and, of course, the makeup of the congregation. But at least 50 to maybe 100 people for one full-time person in the church. And so if you're a pastor and you're seeing people come to Christ and you're discipling people into a relationship with Jesus, and then they're responding to a call of ministry and they're working through this process of being prepared for the work of the ministry, and they come to the place and they look at you after they've done all the work. They say, Pastor, give me a job. You can see, you can only do that a few times. So every 50 people that you add to the church, you might be able to add another person. But even still, it's slow and it almost guarantees that there will be people that God desires to be active in the work of ministry, stuck on the sidelines, waiting for their opportunity to be your next student pastor or family pastor or associate pastor or other role in the church. Meanwhile, they can volunteer in different places, but all those roles, volunteer roles, seem to be secondary in the prevailing model than the paid staff role. And so herein lies the problem. There's a problem with the pipeline. This is what CDN does so well. It creates a new pipeline, a different pipeline that releases people for ministry. And here's how it works. Start with the encounter gathering. So at an encounter, the encounter experience, people are awakened to the call of God. And then what happens next? Immediately you begin to disciple them into the depth of their calling. And from this place, you say, right away, go start something new. Get started in the ministry, and your fruitfulness will provide the resources that are needed for your possible employment. So if as a person as they're leading people to Christ, as they're gathering people, as they gather their first 50 people, and you help them begin to organize that, right away, the resources are in the harvest. And you can do this again and again and again and again. Why? Because it's not dependent on that candidate looking to you to say, grow your church, pastor, make it larger so that you can hire me. Instead, you're telling that candidate, go into the harvest field and the Lord will provide for everything you need. The details are in the journey. The resources are in the harvest. And the exciting thing is maybe they come to an encounter and then they begin to gather some people and the Lord begins to stir there. They begin to show the gifts and graces for leadership in that level. And then they come back to the encounter, and guess what? Next time they come back, they're going to bring some of the people that they've led to Christ with them. And in that encounter, they're saying, hey, I want you to encounter God. And perhaps God, the Lord's calling you, one, to be a part of what we're doing together. It's a way for them to build their core team. And also it's a way for them to multiply ministry. And this flywheel solves the pipeline problem. It solves the pipeline problem. Now, there's still going to be a need when there's a fruitful person that's leading people to Christ. There's still going to be a need for them to get the proper education, to walk down the appropriate pathways towards credentialing and ordination. But the first benchmark of credentialing is fruitfulness in the harvest field. It's obedience to Jesus. It's displaying the gifts and graces to lead at that level, not taking a test and showing a report that says, look, I can do this. It's they're living it out. It's life on life. And your job as a trainer then is not so much to focus on finding positions and jobs for these people, but to coach, to mentor. In other words, to disciple people into the depth of their calling and trust the Lord to open the doors at the proper time. And so you can see how this simple shift changes everything. It thrusts us into a stream of kingdom multiplication, of great faith and faithfulness, of bold steps of faith, but not in isolation, not doing this on your own. Instead, doing this in partnership with a local trainer, a pastor, a discipling relationship where you take that person who is called and you say, let's go. Let's get started right away. We don't have to wait. We can obey Jesus right away, and the Lord will provide for all